The quantum detector's alarm pierced the silence of Deep Space Monitoring Station Epsilon, startling Dr. Sarah Chen from her late-night analysis of stellar radiation patterns. The sound wasn't the usual soft ping of detected background quantum fluctuations. This was different. The alarm meant the station's sophisticated sensors had picked up something unprecedented. Sarah's fingers flew across the holographic interface, bringing up streams of data that immediately made her breath catch. The quantum signatures were organized, structured in a way that defied natural occurrence. Her heart began to race as she realized what she might be looking at: proof of intelligent life. "Dr. Walker," she called out, her voice steady despite her excitement. "You need to see this." James Walker, the station's senior physicist, emerged from his small office, his weathered face illuminated by the soft blue glow of the monitoring screens. At 62, he'd spent more than half his life searching for signs of extraterrestrial intelligence. Now, in the twilight of his career, something extraordinary was happening. "Tell me," he said simply, pulling up a chair beside her. "The quantum detection array picked up this signal about 12 minutes ago," Sarah explained, projecting a three-dimensional visualization of the data. "Look at these patterns. They're not random. They're repeating in cycles of prime numbers." Walker leaned forward, his eyes narrowing as he studied the ethereal display. "Could be a natural phenomenon we haven't encountered before. A new type of pulsar, perhaps." "I thought of that," Sarah replied, swiping through several screens of analysis. "But look at this energy distribution. It's too precise, too controlled. And there's something else." She highlighted a particular segment of data. "These patterns, they're changing, evolving, like they're responding to environmental variables we can't see." The station fell silent except for the soft hum of equipment. Built on the far side of Neptune's moon Triton, Epsilon Station was humanity's most advanced deep space monitoring facility. Its quantum detection array was a breakthrough in human technology, capable of detecting subtle fluctuations in space-time that traditional instruments couldn't perceive. The facility was staffed by only 4 people, rotating every 6 months, their sole mission to watch and listen to the cosmos. "Get Marcus and Yuki," Walker finally said. "They need to be here for this." Within minutes, Marcus Rodriguez, the station's communications specialist, and Yuki Tanaka, their quantum mechanics expert, joined them at the main console. The 4 of them represented humanity's silent watchers, searching for signs that we weren't alone in the universe. "The signal's getting stronger," Yuki announced, her fingers dancing across her personal interface. "And look at these correlation patterns. They're unlike anything in our database." Marcus frowned at his own readings. "Should we notify Earth Command? This definitely falls under first contact protocols." "Not yet," Walker said, surprising them all. "Protocol states we need to verify the artificial nature of the signal first. We need to be absolutely certain." Sarah was about to argue when her screen flashed red. "Energy spike. The quantum fluctuations are intensifying." The holographic display erupted with new data streams, and the station's quantum sensors began registering massive disturbances in spacetime. Through the station's reinforced windows, they could see nothing but the usual starfield and Triton's icy surface below. But their instruments told a different story. Something massive was happening just beyond their conventional perception. "My God," Walker breathed, staring at the readings. "These energy levels. They're off the scale. Whatever this is, it's happening less than 2 light hours from our position." Yuki's eyes widened as she processed the data. "These patterns, they're not just signals. They're weapons fire." The revelation hit them like a physical force. They weren't just detecting alien communications. They were witnessing a battle, invisible to traditional sensors, but raging across quantum dimensions their instruments could barely perceive. "Look at this," Marcus called out, highlighting a particular data stream. "These signatures here, they're consistent with what we'd expect from faster-than-light travel. Multiple vessels, massive energy expenditure." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. Not only was there intelligent life out there, but it was far more advanced than humanity had imagined, and they were at war. New signals, Yuki announced tensely. Different pattern structure. I think we're seeing two distinct groups. The energy signatures are completely different. The quantum detection array's displays painted a terrifying picture of destruction on a scale humanity had never witnessed. One set of signatures was methodical, precise, overwhelming in its power. The other was chaotic, desperate, clearly on the defensive. "We need to tell Earth Command," Marcus insisted. "This changes everything. Our whole understanding off." "Wait," Walker interrupted, pointing to a new data stream. "Something's changing." The defensive signatures were weakening, their patterns becoming erratic. To their horror, the team realized they were watching the systematic destruction of what could only be an alien fleet or installation. "We have to do something," Sarah whispered, though she knew it was impossible. Their station was purely for observation, with no capacity for intervention even if they wanted to. They were witnessing the possible extinction of an alien civilization, and they were powerless to stop it. The attacking signatures suddenly shifted, their patterns changing in a way that made the quantum sensors spike dramatically. A new set of signals emerged, and Yuki's face went pale as she translated the data. "They're scanning," she said, her voice barely audible. "The attackers, they're conducting some kind of quantum sweep of the area, including—" She looked up at her colleagues, fear evident in her eyes. "Including our direction." Walker immediately began shutting down non-essential systems, power down everything except life support and minimal monitoring. Now, the team worked frantically to reduce their quantum signature, praying that their relatively primitive technology would appear as nothing more than background noise to whatever advanced civilization was out there. For tense minutes, they watched as the scanning patterns passed through their sector of space. Finally, the scanning stopped. The attack signatures began to fade, moving away from the area where they had destroyed their opponents. Soon, only echo patterns remained, ghostly remnants of the devastation they had witnessed. "Signal analysis complete," Marcus reported quietly. "I've got everything recorded. Multiple terabytes of quantum data." Walker looked around at his shaken team. They had just witnessed something that changed everything humanity thought they knew about their place in the universe, and they had a decision to make. "Protocol says we contact Earth Command immediately," he said slowly. "But what we just saw, this wasn't just first contact. We just witnessed an advanced civilization commit what amounts to genocide. And now we know they're out there, and they're hostile." Sarah stood up, her mind racing with implications. "If we report this through official channels, how long before it leaks? How long before panic spreads? We're not ready for this, not as a species. But we can't just sit on this information," Marcus argued. "Earth needs to prepare. If those beings decide to expand their territory further." "There's a third option," Yuki said quietly, drawing everyone's attention. "We keep watching. We gather more data. We prepare a complete analysis. And we use the quantum array to try to understand more about these civilizations before we reveal their existence." Walker nodded slowly. "We're humanity's watchers. That's our job. Maybe we need to watch a little longer before we decide humanity's next move." The decision weighed heavily on them all. They were choosing to break protocol, to withhold world-changing information. But as they looked at the data streams showing the aftermath of the battle they'd witnessed, they knew they needed to understand more before they changed human civilization forever. "1 week," Walker declared. "We observe for 1 week, analyze everything we can. Then we decide." As her colleagues nodded in agreement, Sarah turned back to her console, adjusting the quantum sensors to better track the fading signatures of the attacking fleet. Somewhere out there, an advanced civilization was waging war across the stars. And now, humanity's silent watchers knew about it. They had 1 week to figure out what to do with that knowledge. 1 week before they had to decide whether to maintain their silence or reveal to humanity that not only were they not alone in the universe, They were sharing it with civilizations capable of destruction on an unimaginable scale. The quantum detector continued its silent vigilance, waiting for the next signal that would reveal more about humanity's new reality. And in the darkness of space, 4 humans carried the weight of a secret that could change their species forever. 3 days into their self-imposed week of observation, Sarah Chen hadn't left the quantum detection array for more than 4 hours at a time. Dark circles had formed under her eyes, but she barely noticed her exhaustion. The data streaming across her screens told a story too compelling to ignore. "I think I've identified distinct technological signatures," she announced to Walker, who had taken to spending most of his time in the main observation room. "The attackers, I'm calling them the dominants, they use incredibly efficient quantum manipulation. Their weapons literally tear apart space-time." Walker nodded, studying the complex patterns she had isolated. "And the defenders? That's where it gets interesting." Sarah highlighted a different set of data streams. "Their technology is actually more sophisticated in some ways, but less powerful. It's like they're trying to work with space-time rather than dominate it. They're called the harmonics, according to the quantum communications I've managed to decrypt." The quantum detector suddenly pulsed with new activity. Marcus, who had been monitoring long-range scans, straightened in his chair. "We've got something. Weak signal, about 1 light hour out. It matches the harmonic patterns." "Survivors?" Yuki asked, looking up from her own analysis. "Has to be," Marcus replied. "The signal's degrading, but it's definitely artificial." And he paused, running the data through several filters. "I think it's a distress call." Walker's weathered face showed the weight of the decision before them. They had agreed to observe, to gather data before reporting back to Earth Command. But now, they were faced with direct evidence of survivors from the massacre they had witnessed. "Put it on the main display," he ordered. The holographic interface filled with streams of quantum data, different from the weapon signatures they had been studying. These patterns were more organic, almost musical in their structure. Yuki's translation algorithms began processing the signal, converting the quantum fluctuations into something their human minds could comprehend. "It's not just a distress call," Yuki said softly. "It's a warning. They're trying to alert others about the dominant attack." She looked up at her colleagues. "They don't know if anyone else survived." Sarah felt her chest tighten. They had spent 3 days analyzing the battle data, learning about 2 advanced civilizations that had been waging a hidden war above humanity's head. But this was different. This wasn't data anymore. This was a cry for help. "We can't just listen," she said, breaking the heavy silence that had fallen over the station. "We have to respond." "That would violate every protocol we have," Marcus reminded her, though his voice lacked conviction. "First contact procedures require—" "First contact has already happened," Sarah interrupted. "We're past protocols now. There are survivors out there, possibly dying, and we're the only ones who know about it." Walker raised his hand, silencing the brewing argument. "If we respond, we reveal ourselves not just to the survivors, but potentially to the dominants as well. We need to be certain." "I can mask our signal," Yuki offered, already working at her console. "Make it look like it's coming from somewhere else. Bounce it through several quantum corridors. It won't fool them forever, but it might buy us time." The station commander studied each member of his team. They had all aged years in the past 3 days, carrying the weight of their discovery. But now, there was something else in their eyes. Purpose. "Do it," he decided. "But we do this carefully. We're not just 4 scientists anymore. We're humanity's first ambassadors to advanced alien civilizations." Yuki's fingers flew across her interface, crafting a response signal that would be recognizable to the harmonics without immediately giving away Earth's location. Sarah and Marcus worked together to route it through a complex series of quantum corridors, disguising its true point of origin. "Signal ready," Yuki announced. "Simple pattern sequence, based on their own communication structure. It should translate as a basic acknowledgement of their warning and an offer of assistance." Walker took a deep breath. Send it. The quantum detector hummed as it transmitted their message into space. For several tense minutes, nothing happened. Then the sensors lit up with a new signal, stronger this time, more focused. "They're responding," Marcus exclaimed. "The signal's coherent. They're trying to establish a more direct communication channel." The holographic display erupted with new patterns, more complex than the distress call. Yuki's translation algorithms worked furiously to decode them. And slowly, the alien message began to take shape. "They're surprised," Yuki translated, her eyes widening. "They're saying our quantum manipulation is elegantly primitive. I think that's the closest translation. They want to know who we are." "Primitive." Marcus frowned. "Our quantum detection array is the most advanced technology humanity has ever created. Compared to their level of technology, we might as well be using smoke signals," Sarah said, but there was excitement rather than disappointment in her voice. "Don't you see? This is perfect. They might be advanced enough to help us understand what we're dealing with, but we're not advanced enough to be seen as a threat." Walker nodded slowly, beginning to see the possibility. "We're under their radar. The dominants wouldn't even recognize our technology as artificial. We could be a hidden ally," Sarah finished. "But first, we need to help these survivors." The quantum detector registered new information streaming in. Yuki worked quickly to translate. "They're sending coordinates, some kind of quantum spacetime markers. I think, yes, it's their location. They're hidden in a quantum pocket, but their systems are failing." "Can we help them?" Walker asked. "We barely understand their technology." "Maybe we don't need to understand it," Sarah suggested. "They're not asking for technological help. They need resources, basic materials to repair their systems, things we might actually be able to provide." Marcus was already calculating. "We have a maintenance shuttle. If these coordinates are accurate, we could reach them in about 20 hours. The shuttle's small enough that it wouldn't register on conventional scans. And if we do this right," Yuki added, "we could learn more about both civilizations. Understanding their technology could help us prepare Earth for what's out there." Walker looked around at his team. They were proposing something unprecedented. Direct intervention in an interstellar conflict, unofficial first contact with an advanced civilization. Everything in his training told him to report back to Earth Command immediately. But Earth Command didn't know what they had seen. Didn't understand the scale of what was happening in the quantum layers of spacetime. Humanity needed allies, needed information, needed time to prepare. And sometimes, he realized, the right choice meant breaking all the rules. "Prepare the shuttle," he ordered. "Minimal crew. Sarah, you'll pilot, and Yuki will lead you to handle communications. Marcus and I will maintain the station and coordinate from here." As his team burst into action, Walker turned back to the quantum detector's display. Somewhere out there, survivors of an advanced civilization were hiding from their destroyers, reaching out to primitives like humanity for help. It was a huge risk, but also an opportunity. A chance for humanity to prove itself on an interstellar stage. They had just chosen to break every protocol in the book. But as he watched his team prepare for their rescue mission, Walker couldn't help but think that sometimes the only way forward was to write a new rulebook entirely. The cosmos had just become a much larger, more dangerous place, and humanity's first real step into it would be not with a show of force or a grand announcement, but with an act of mercy to a civilization that had dismissed them as primitive. The maintenance shuttle cut silently through space, its simple electromagnetic shielding a far cry from the quantum technology they had witnessed in the battle. Sarah sat at the controls, constantly checking the quantum detector they had modified to fit in the small craft. Beside her, Yuki monitored their communications with both the survivors and the station. "I still can't believe how well our primitive quantum detector works," Yuki said, studying the readings. "The Harmonic's sophisticated systems are failing, but our basic technology can still track them." Sarah smiled grimly. "Sometimes the simplest solution is the most reliable." Their quantum pocket is degrading because their advanced systems are too damaged to maintain it properly. But our detector doesn't try to manipulate quantum space, it just observes it. The quantum detector pinged, indicating they were approaching the coordinates. To conventional sensors, this region of space would appear empty. But their primitive device showed them what the sophisticated alien technology couldn't hide: a subtle distortion in spacetime where the survivors had taken refuge. Beginning approach, Sarah announced, both to Yuki and through their secure channel to the station. Any sign we've been detected? Negative. Marcus's voice came through their comms. The Dominant's patrol patterns haven't changed. As far as we can tell, they've completely overlooked this sector, probably because their sensors are too advanced to bother with such a primitive area of space. Sarah eased the shuttle closer to the quantum pocket's edge. According to their calculations, the harmonics vessel should be just inside. But making contact would be tricky. Their technology operated on fundamentally different principles. "We're being scanned," Yuki reported suddenly. "The survivors are." "Wait." She frowned at her readings. "They're laughing. At least I think that's the closest translation. They're amazed by our ship. Amazed by how primitive it is." Sarah asked, concentrating on maintaining their position. "No," Yuki replied, her voice filled with wonder. "They're amazed it works at all. According to them, we're doing something that should be impossible." The quantum detector's display shifted, showing new patterns as the harmonics attempted to communicate more directly. Their sophisticated quantum signals had been simplified, adapted to work with the human's basic technology. It was like a quantum physicist trying to explain their work through hand signals, crude but effective. "They're saying our approach to quantum mechanics is unique," Yuki translated. "All advanced civilizations they know have developed along similar lines, manipulating quantum states directly. But we just built tools to detect and measure them, without trying to control them. And that's important because the Dominant's weapons work by disrupting quantum manipulation. Their attacks target the very principles that advanced quantum technology operates on. But our systems are too primitive to be affected." Sarah finished, understanding dawning. "We're like quantum cavemen bringing stone tools to a laser fight." And sometimes, Walker's voice came through their comms, "Stone tools are exactly what you need." The shuttle's sensors registered a change in the quantum pocket. The harmonics were adjusting their hiding place, creating an opening that their primitive vessel could pass through. It was like watching masters of quantum mechanics resort to sign language, and somehow that crude communication was working better than their sophisticated systems ever could. Sarah guided the shuttle through the opening, and suddenly they were inside the quantum pocket. The sight that greeted them took their breath away. The harmonics ship was massive, its design unlike anything human minds had conceived. It seemed to exist in multiple quantum states simultaneously, its form shifting and flowing like liquid mathematics. But parts of it were dark, damaged. The quantum states that should have been fluid were frozen, creating a cascading failure that threatened to collapse their quantum pocket entirely. "Their quantum core is destabilizing," Yuki reported, reading the simplified signals the harmonics were sending. "They can't maintain their quantum state coherence. The Dominant's weapons didn't just damage their ship. They damaged the underlying quantum fields they use for everything from propulsion to life support." Sarah studied the readings from their quantum detector. "But we might be able to help them precisely because we don't use quantum manipulation. Our shuttle's power systems are based on simple electromagnetic principles. If we could..." She trailed off as new signals came in from the harmonics. Yuki's eyes widened as she translated. "They want to know if we can provide basic power to stabilize their systems," she said. "Not quantum manipulation, just raw energy. They're saying they might be able to adapt it, use it to restart their quantum core without triggering the cascade failures their advanced systems are causing. Like using a car battery to jumpstart a quantum computer," Sarah mused. "It's so primitive it might actually work." They spent the next several hours working with the harmonics, using their shuttle's simple power systems to help stabilize the alien vessel. The process was slow, crude, and completely unprecedented. The most advanced civilization humans had ever encountered was being saved by technology that, to them, was essentially prehistoric. But it was working. The harmonics ship began to stabilize, its quantum states becoming more coherent. And as they worked, the aliens shared information about themselves, about the dominance, about the war that humanity had unknowingly been living beneath. They're saying that most civilizations follow a similar technological development path. Yuki translated as they worked. They discover quantum manipulation early, build their entire society around it. But humanity, we developed differently. We focused on understanding and observing rather than controlling quantum mechanics. And that makes us valuable, Sarah realized. We see things differently, solve problems differently. More than that, Yuki added, reading the latest transmission. They're saying our approach to technology might be the key to fighting the dominance. Their weapons target quantum manipulation because that's what every advanced civilization relies on. But we're too primitive to be affected, Sarah finished. Our technology is too simple to be disrupted. Technological development might actually be their greatest strength. They had unknowingly developed along a completely different path than other civilizations, creating technology that was immune to the most devastating weapons in the galaxy precisely because it was too basic to be affected by them. As the harmonics ship continued to stabilize, Sarah and Yuki exchanged looks. They had come to help survivors, to gather information about the civilizations humanity had discovered. Instead, they had stumbled upon something much more important. Proof that humanity's unique development, their different way of thinking and solving problems, might be exactly what the galaxy needed. The quantum detector pinged again, registering the successful stabilization of the harmonics quantum core. Their primitive solution had worked. And in doing so, they had proved that sometimes the simplest approach was the most powerful, a lesson that humanity might soon teach to the entire galaxy. Technological development might actually be their greatest strength. They had unknowingly developed along a completely different path than other civilizations, creating technology that was immune to the most devastating weapons in the galaxy precisely because it was too basic to be affected by them. As the harmonics ship continued to stabilize, Sarah and Yuki exchanged looks. They had come to help survivors, to gather information about the civilizations humanity had discovered. Instead, they had stumbled upon something much more important. Proof that humanity's unique development, their different way of thinking and solving problems, might be exactly what the galaxy needed. The quantum detector pinged again, registering the successful stabilization of the harmonics quantum core. Their primitive solution had worked. And in doing so, they had proved that sometimes the simplest approach was the most powerful, a lesson that humanity might soon teach to the entire galaxy. We might not have to hide it much longer, Sarah said. The harmonics have been helping me prepare a full report, not just about the war, but about humanity's unique position in it. We're not just witnesses anymore. We might be the key to ending this conflict. The quantum detector suddenly pulsed with urgent activity. Yuki rushed to her station, her fingers flying over the controls. Priority signal from the harmonic vessel. They're detecting massive quantum disturbances. The dominants are launching another offensive. The holographic displays shifted, showing the movement of dominant forces across the sector. Their quantum weapons were lighting up space-time like a thunderstorm, searching for survivors who had learned to hide using human methods. They know something's changed, Walker realized. They can't find their targets as easily anymore. We've given the survivors a way to hide in plain sight. More than that, Sarah added, studying the attack patterns. Look at their search algorithms. They're getting frustrated, switching to brute force tactics. They're used to dealing with advanced quantum technology, but our primitive methods are like trying to catch smoke with a net. A new signal cut through their discussion. a direct communication from their harmonic allies. Yuki's translation appeared on the main screen, causing everyone to fall silent. "They're calling for a council," she read. "Representatives from all the surviving factions. They want to meet. Here. At our station." Walker's eyebrows shot up. "Here. Why?" "Because we're invisible," Sarah explained, excitement creeping into her voice. "Our station, our technology. It's all beneath the dominance notice. We're the perfect hiding place precisely because we're so primitive. And," she paused, reading further, "they want us to help them develop a new kind of quantum technology, one based on our approach." The implications were staggering. Humanity, which had barely taken its first steps into quantum mechanics, was being asked to help reshape the technological foundation of galactic civilization. "We have to tell Earth Command now," Marcus insisted. "This is too big to keep secret. Humanity needs to prepare." Walker was quiet for a long moment, watching the streams of quantum data that represented the hopes of countless survivors. "We'll tell them," he finally said. "But we do it our way. We show them what we've discovered, what we've achieved. We show them that humanity's greatest strength isn't in our technology. It's in our perspective." The quantum detector pinged again as more signals came in. More survivors, more allies, all drawn to humanity's unique approach. They had started as silent watchers, observing a war they barely understood. Now they were becoming something else. Teachers, showing advanced civilizations a new way of looking at the universe. The quantum detector pinged again as more signals came in. More survivors, more allies, all drawn to humanity's unique approach. They had started as silent watchers, observing a war they barely understood. Now they were becoming something else. Teachers, showing advanced civilizations a new way of looking at the universe. "The council will be here in 3 days," Yuki announced, reading the confirmed responses. "Representatives from 12 different species, all using our simplified quantum protocols to avoid detection." Sarah pulled up the station's maintenance schedules. "We'll need to modify the docking systems, create interfaces their ships can use. It's going to be tricky, adapting our primitive technology to work with their advanced systems." "That's exactly why they chose us," Walker said, a slight smile crossing his face. "We're used to working with what we have, finding solutions no one else would think of. It's what humans do best." As his crew began preparations for the unprecedented gathering, Walker couldn't help but marvel at the turn of events. They had discovered they weren't alone in the universe, only to find that the most advanced civilizations needed humanity's primitive wisdom. Their limited understanding of quantum mechanics, their simple technology, their different way of thinking. These weren't weaknesses to be overcome, but strengths that might change the course of galactic history. The quantum detector continued its vigilant watch, its simple design now serving as a blueprint for a new way of surviving in a universe more complex than humanity had ever imagined. And in 3 days, the small observation station at the edge of human space would become the center of a revolution, one that began not with advanced technology, but with the simple human art of seeing things differently. Station Epsilon's observation room had been transformed. Where once 4 humans monitored the cosmos in solitude, now representatives from 12 different species gathered around hastily modified interfaces. The air hummed with translated quantum communications as beings that had evolved on worlds humanity had never dreamed of work together, united by desperation and hope. Walker stood at his usual position, trying to maintain his composure despite the historic nature of the moment. Sarah, Yuki, and Marcus moved among the aliens, helping them adapt to the simplified quantum interfaces the station now used. The sight was surreal. Some of the most advanced beings in known space, learning to use human technology that they would have dismissed as primitive just weeks ago. "The dominants have changed their search patterns again," announced Tilara, a harmonic quantum specialist whose crystalline form shifted colors as she spoke. "They're becoming increasingly erratic. Our adoption of human methods has them searching in completely wrong quantum layers." "Good," Sarah replied, adjusting one of the quantum detectors they'd modified for alien use. The more frustrated they get, the more likely they are to make mistakes, and thanks to our primitive observation techniques, we'll see those mistakes. A soft chime indicated a new arrival. The station's docking systems, jury-rigged to accommodate vessels that operated on entirely different physical principles, had successfully secured another ship. Moments later, the final expected representative entered, a being that appeared to exist partially in higher dimensions, its form difficult for human eyes to focus on. "The archivists have arrived," Yuki announced, reading the quantum signatures. "All council members are now present." Walker stepped forward, his voice steady despite his racing heart. "Then let's begin. We've all seen the data. The Dominant's power is based on their ability to manipulate and weaponize quantum mechanics at its most fundamental level, but their very sophistication has become their weakness." He gestured to the holographic displays showing the modified human quantum detection systems that had been distributed throughout the sector. "Our technology, which they dismissed as too primitive to be worth noticing, has given us an advantage they never expected. We can't match their power, but we can see them coming. We can hide from their scans. And most importantly, we can help others do the same." Tilera's crystalline form pulsed with agreement. "The human approach to quantum mechanics is unprecedented. You spent centuries simply watching and measuring quantum effects before attempting to manipulate them. It gave you a perspective none of our civilizations developed. But observation alone won't win this war," came a thought signal from another representative, a being composed primarily of electromagnetic fields. "The Dominants still hold overwhelming military superiority." The holographic display shifted, showing a complex diagram that merged human quantum detection principles with advanced alien quantum technology. It was crude by the standards of most species present, but its potential was clear. "We call it the quantum mirror," Sarah explained. "It doesn't try to overwhelm or outmaneuver the Dominant's quantum weapons. Instead, it uses our primitive observation techniques to predict and reflect their attacks back at them." The council chamber erupted with quantum signals as the representatives analyzed the proposal. The archivist's higher dimensional form rippled with what might have been excitement. "This could work," Tilera announced. "The Dominant's weapons are so sophisticated that they never considered the possibility of simple reflection. Their quantum manipulation is too complex, too precise. They've forgotten the basic principles they built it on." "Exactly," Yuki added. "They're like quantum surgeons who've forgotten how mirrors work. And sometimes, a mirror is all you need to defeat someone who's forgotten to watch their own reflection." The electromagnetic being pulsed with agreement. "We can begin production immediately. Our remaining fabrication facilities can be adapted to create these crude but effective devices." Walker watched as the council quickly mobilized, coordinating resources and planning deployment strategies. Humanity's first major contribution to galactic civilization would be teaching advanced species how to think simply again. "There's something else," he said, drawing everyone's attention. "Earth needs to know. We've kept this secret to protect our world. But now we need to prepare our people for what's coming." The council fell silent. Then Tilera's crystalline form shifted to a deep, respectful blue. "We agree. Humanity has proven itself not just worthy of contact, but essential to the galaxy's future. We will help you prepare your world for the truth." As the council continued their planning, Sarah joined Walker at his observation post. "Did you ever imagine," she asked quietly, "when we first detected those quantum signals, that we'd end up here, teaching advanced aliens how to use primitive technology to win a galactic war?" Walker smiled slightly. "Actually, this is exactly what humanity does best. We observe, we learn, and we find simple solutions to complex problems. We've been doing it since we first looked up at the stars." The quantum detector pinged, showing new signal patterns. The Dominants were launching another offensive, but this time, they would find their targets ready. Throughout the sector, Simplified quantum detection systems based on human technology were tracking their movements. And soon, their own weapons would be turned against them by devices so primitive they had never considered them a threat. "Send the message to Earth Command," Walker ordered. "Tell them everything. It's time for humanity to take its place in the galaxy, not as the most advanced civilization, but as the one that remembered the power of simple observation." As the quantum signals carried their message toward Earth, the council chamber hummed with activity. Humanity had started as silent watchers, observing a war they barely understood. They had become hidden allies, teaching advanced civilizations the value of primitive wisdom. And now they would help lead a revolution in galactic warfare, not through overwhelming power, but through the simple human gift of seeing what others had forgotten to notice. The stars watched silently as history turned on the most human of innovations, the ability to step back, observe, and find strength in simplicity. The war was far from over, but its course had been forever changed by a species that had turned their primitive understanding into their greatest advantage. In the end, humanity's gift to the galaxy wasn't advanced technology or sophisticated weapons. It was the reminder that sometimes the most powerful solution is the simplest one. You just have to be willing to see it.